The Michael Berry Show.
We had a story earlier, a few days ago, about what was described as a ding-dong ditch situation, where folks run up and knock on the door and run away. Except in this case, it was an 11-year-old who did it, and as he was fleeing the home, the homeowner shot and killed him. Now, there's a lot of discussion about what is the proper, proportionate response to such a thing. And there will be much made of the fact that he was running away instead of toward. There are many officer-involved shootings where, for instance, someone runs at a cop with a knife, cop draws, and he turns back. There's a lot that goes into this training. Adrenaline is pumping. You've got to rely on your training. But even the best, Tom Brady threw interceptions. He skipped balls to receivers. No matter how many passes you've thrown with people pulling all over you, it's still a very intense moment. Now, let me offer as a side note, I don't believe all of these are truly knock and run, because there are a lot of videos that they take themselves and post, little idiots, where they go up and kick on the door, and if it opens, they run in and steal everything they can. If it doesn't open, they run off. So that way, when they're caught, oh, we're just playing ding-dong ditch. Oh, you crazy kids. Y'all don't do that anymore. That's not actually what they were doing. And the media is all too ready to make a George Floyd situation. But I reached out to my folks at Byrna because one of the things I am a believer in is your own self-protection. My brother was a cop. You know this. I love cops. Big supporter of cops. They're not all perfect, but neither is Congress. Neither is your company. Neither is the clergy. Most of them are doing a good job for the right reasons and making a difference. In fact, almost all of them, I would say that about. Everybody has a bad day, including Ramon. Most days, actually. So I reached out to them because I am a believer and use the Byrna. I use the compact launcher. And I saw this as an opportunity to talk about how, as the Byrna folks say, you could have saved two lives, the boy and the homeowner, because his life is forever changed and could be bad. It is not always necessary to use lethal force, and Byrna is known as the less lethal option, Byrna.com. So I asked them for an expert on the issue, and they offered to me, local as it would happen, a former captain with the Galveston Police Department, and also an active REMAX skydiving team member. Ramon, you ever skydived? I would never. My son went on his senior trip, and he promised us he wouldn't skydive, and he did. He performs at Wings Over Houston and other air shows as part of a skydiving team. He is now with Byrna while continuing to fly and skydive, and he's a spokesman for national media outlets. You may have seen him or heard him talking about active shooter topics and the occasions where a less lethal option could save not only that of the person that's killed, but the person who pulls the trigger. John Schirard, welcome to the Michael Berry Show.
Hey, thanks for having me. That's quite the introduction. I appreciate it.
Would you like me to go on? Are there more things you'd like me to offer?
No, not at all. That
Is there anything about you that would surprise me? Like, do you have a tattoo on your face? Do you have an earring?
I do not. No, I try to maintain a clear appearance. 20 years in law enforcement will do that to you. So,
did you set the record at Ball High School for the 40-yard dash for a white boy? Tell me something about you that's interesting that I wouldn't expect.
I did not. I'm also a corporate jet pilot. So part of my part-time gig is.
So we made it 57 seconds before you told us he was a pilot. Usually, it normally gets in there within that first minute.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you
I
from
had to
Galveston?
get in there somewhere. No, I'm actually from the Metroplex area. So I'm actually from Dallas, and moved down to start working down in Galveston PD back in 2004.
What brought you to Galveston PD?
A job more than anything else.
Really? Was Wiley the chief then? Who was the chief back then?
No, that was Kenneth Mack. Kenneth Mack was the chief back then. A great chief. Loved working for him. He hired me and gave me an opportunity, and try to make him proud every day.
How long were you Galveston PD?
I was there till 2020. I actually left in 2020, and then that's when I took over, or actually was hired by Byrna to create the law enforcement division over there with a couple other guys.
So I met the Byrna guys because they were on the border. Now sheriff,
Hmm.
then constable Jimmy Fullen was
Yep.
taking PTO and going down to the border and working from the border. And he and they connected, and they said, "Hey, do you know a guy that's down there? We're talking. We want to have him as one of our national spokesmen." And his name is Michael Berry, and he says Michael Berry is a very dear friend. I know him extraordinarily well. I've protected his family over the years. I've known Jimmy a very long time. Tell me, do you live on the island now?
I don't. I'm actually up in League City, so about halfway between the island and Houston.
Right on. And you're not going to hem and haw. You're going to pick one and one and one only. You get one
Okay.
meal today. You haven't eaten all day. It's 7 p.m. Where are you eating in Galveston?
Ooh, Yagas, hands down,
Yagas.
every
Oh,
time. Yagas, best
wow.
selection, great atmosphere, love the owners. Yeah, definitely.
They they have been a sponsor of the show just kind of seasonally when they have events coming up, and I don't
Sure.
do less than a year. I don't agree to that because then you too much cycle, and I think it confuses listeners.
Sure. Oh, sure.
But I've made probably three exceptions in 20 years, and they are one of them because I think they do such a good job. I think they're so good. They're great for Galveston, but they're really good for the Strand. They bring a lot of energy
Yeah,
down there.
and they do a lot of philanthropy down in Galveston as well. I mean,
Hmm.
they're heavily involved in the community, and that just just really have that Galveston vibe down there.
My kids are 18 and 19 now, so we don't get to do it as much. But we wore that L.A. Kings or La Kings, however you pronounce it, across the street.
Hmm.
We wore that place out when they were kids. We'd go in and watch that big guy that looks like the guy in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the big Indian guy that makes the taffy. Oh, that was a treat. All right, we'll talk to John Schirard about Byrna and less lethal force and the case of the Ding Dong Ditch where the kid had to be killed recently. Coming up.
Because at Photomat, your photo matters.
Josh, are you a Hank Jr. fan?
Oh, absolutely. I'm from Texas. Got to be.
Well, you say that. There's a lot of these Yankees that have moved in from Dallas. You know what I mean?
It's very
Gotta
true.
be careful with these
I
carpetbaggers.
I originally when I moved down to Houston, they called me Yankee because I was north of I-10. So
Well, that's exactly how we view it. Yes, of course. Yeah, you got to be careful. These people in the woodlands moving in and trying to change everything. So, so you know the Ding Dong Ditch story. They told me
Yep.
the Byrna folks told me you were perfectly well aware of the case and everything related to it. How is that? How is the result different in that situation if the fella has an option other than his firearm?
A lot of people, when we look at shootings throughout the country, and this is on the civilian side, it's also on the law enforcement side as well. When we really dive down into these shootings, a lot of it comes down to the fact that that was the person's only option. They felt that that was the only tool that they had, the only option they had for response. And so it was either do that or do nothing. And unfortunately, a lot of times we see these decisions, like in this case, that decision is extraordinarily flawed because they feel that, well, this is the only tool I have, so this is the response that I'm going to have. And then we get into a situation like this. So that's where it's so important to have those options and to have, when it comes to force options, once again, on the civilian and law enforcement side, it's not a one size fits all. It's not just, it's either, 0 or 10. You have to have, those options in the middle in order to respond appropriately. Because when it comes down to it, your response has to be reasonable, regardless of the decision you make of why you used it. It has to be reasonable. Now, in this case, we're looking at why he may have used it. And you brought up a very good point in the beginning of the show, and it's, he doesn't know what's going on. He may not know that they're playing a game of Ding Dong Ditch, and he may err on the side of caution. But once again, even if he did, that response still has to be reasonable. And I think we can all agree that in this particular case, it was not reasonable.
I'm not sure if I'm a juror that I agree with that. And I'm not sure that I wouldn't love to take up the case as his defense attorney and simply read off for 30 minutes the current crime reports of young men attacking people. But I agree with you that if the fella had it all to do over again, I can guarantee you he'd rather, if Josh Schirard were handing him a Byrna pistol or a Byrna launcher or a Smith and Wesson, he'd shoot the Byrna. I feel certain of that fact. Um, I understand you're a career law enforcement officer. If I was having this conversation with my late brother, who was as well, he would have taken your position as well. You deal with it all day, every day. I don't. Um, what do you say to folks who say, I can't put two weapons in my hand at the same time? How am I going to know which to choose?
Really, it comes down to the numbers, and in any situation comes down to the seconds and being in that situation. So, not some Monday morning quarterback anything, but you will have to make that decision if it ever presents itself to you. But I'm a numbers guy, I'm a data guy, and when we look at the numbers of situations that you're likely to encounter. Now, once again, I'm a cop. I carried a gun every day of my life for the last 20 years, but I've also carried Byrna, for the last 5. But when we look at the numbers, when we look at justifiable homicides throughout the U.S. in 2023 numbers, there are about 470 justifiable homicides in self-defense across the U.S. That's it over the course of the year. So your chance of having to use deadly force to protect yourself, to actually kill somebody, is about 1 in 700,000. That's the chance. Now, when we looked at victimization or violent crime victimization rates throughout the U.S. in the same year, your chance of being a victim of violent crime is about 1 in 270. So your chance of having to defend yourself in some other way aside from the use of lethal force is orders of magnitude greater than your chance of actually having to kill someone in order to defend yourself. Now, I do not want people to think that I'm here to replace a gun. I'm a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment. Like I said, carry a gun every day. I'm definitely I'd rather have and not need than need not have guy. But with that being said, we have to take a look at most likely scenarios. I was a SWAT guy for a long time, and we would always look at scenarios in 2 different ways. What's the worst case scenario? What do I need to be prepared for? Worst case. But then also, what's the most likely scenario to happen? And let's make sure we're prepared for that too, so that we're not just, overlooking the obvious out in front of us. And this is no different. We want to be prepared for that worst case scenario, but we really have to take a hard look at what's most likely to happen and what can I have and how can I prepare myself for what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis, and what I know historically is more likely to happen. So once again, in this case, having that option, having that Byrna, maybe he does make a mistake, maybe it was just a game, and there's some harsh words exchanged, but everybody's okay in the end, and that's a much better outcome than what we're seeing today.
Well, and I've presented option 1, which is a guy has choices between the two. I think, well, it's maybe not the largest group, but the most number of people who have responded to me that they bought a Byrna was because of the legal in all 50 states, because we speak for Byrna across the country. So I hear from people across the country where they can't buy a gun, but they can buy this, and it is a less lethal self-defense, and that's important, especially for women, but for both. And the other 2 things are no background check, no license required. I believe that we over-criminalize drug possession and under-penalize violent crime. And we have been left with a situation where everybody's got a black mark, which means there is no real ostracization to being a criminal anymore if everybody is a criminal, by which I mean the number of listeners I get who say, thanks for the advice on the Byrna, I haven't been able to carry for X number of years, and now I have a form of self-defense I feel comfortable with. That is a shockingly high number of people.
That is an absolute market section for us. And I've had the same experience talking to so many people who have told me the same thing. Hey, I screwed up 20, 30 years ago. I was with a group of kids. We stole a car, joyrided for a bit. But, 30 years later, I've got a family, but I still have a felony on my record, and I still cannot protect myself with a gun, even in a state like Texas, where obviously that's, in the vast majority of people. So, it's really interesting to and really motivating for me to be able to say, hey, we have a way for everyone out there, regardless of your background or regardless of your belief system, to be able to get out there, protect themselves, protect their family.
BYRNA. I am a big believer. Josh Schirard. Ramon said I called you John Schirard. I don't believe that's true. Josh Schirard, thank you for your service in law enforcement, and thank you for informing people about this. I think this is important. Thanks for agreeing to be our guest.
I can't. I'm too excited.